red flags are always biblical issues, not preferential issues.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like
break it down. Like every woman is different. Like what things, you almost need to study the young lady. Like how would she best receive your approach? Because women, I mean, even once you're in marriage, you know what I'm saying? Like you can't treat your wife like she's just some old.
No, don't need other people's
other eyes
on their relationship and other observations on their relationship. There's a pride there because the assumption is that you don't have blind spots.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not training our men how to face rejection well in the dating world. And so they're afraid to approach a woman.
How do you know if you're ignoring a red flag or just being too picky? If you're dating with marriage in mind, this is one conversation you don't want to miss. Today, we have a special interview for you as we interview pastors from our very own Epiphany Fellowship Church here in Philadelphia, Pastor Curtis Dunlap and his wife, Courtney. These two have known each other since high school and have been married for 18 years. They raised 4 beautiful children, and together they model what it means to do ministry and family God's way. Pastor Curt has been faithfully serving at Epiphany for the past 15 years as the family life pastor, overseeing the marriage ministry, youth and children's ministry, while also teaching and preaching the word. Courtney is a pre-licensed therapist who homeschools their children and even runs her own homeschool co-op. She's also a published children's book author. Hey, Meaningful Team, welcome back to our channel. I'm your host, James, and alongside with my amazing wife, Brianna, we help Christian singles prepare for a kingdom marriage with real talk, biblical truth, and a little bit of humor. So if you want to make marriage meaningful, go ahead and hit the like button so that this video can reach more people. Also, subscribe if you want to join our meaningful team. Our goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers who want to make marriage meaningful, just like you. All right, y'all, without further ado, let's jump into the interview.
We're not training our men how to face rejection well in the dating world. And so they're afraid to approach a woman. Now, I ain't too old, but for me, I'm like, wow. You know what I'm saying? Like I told her this, and I told my sons this, and I told my daughters too. I was like, man, I would wait until a girl was with her friends, and then I would approach. Now, I could get clowned for approaching, but I also know there's a good possibility that her friends could hype me up too and give me free press.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And so but when I had to come approach her, or even when we was in high school, you had to be ready to get rejected.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, but
listen, all I think about is the yes, no, or maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Circle yes, no, or maybe. Just circle one.
You had to have some resilience because you couldn't get rejected and then never go try to approach a young lady again.
Come on now.
It's like, nah, well, all right, she said no, but if I like another girl, I got to be ready to go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it also causes you to figure out how to, like, you can't just treat them all like a cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Like every woman is different. Like what things, you almost need to study the young lady. Like how would she best receive your approach? Because women, I mean, even once you're in marriage, you know what I'm saying? Like you can't treat your wife like she's just some old, no, that's your wife. That's not, all them's wife. This your wife. So you need to approach her and like study what she likes, study what she enjoys, study how she thinks, study how she sees the world. You know what I'm saying?
There's a couple at the church. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
There's a couple at the church now. We're really good friends with them, and we were good friends with them before they got married.
Okay.
And so the young lady, she used to come to our house all the time. She was like extended family for us. The guy, he was starting to get closer to us, and I was kind of like pouring into him. And so one day he came up to me, and he was like, "Hey, Pastor Curt, can I talk to you?" And I was like, I was on vacation at the time, but because he was close to me, I was like, listen, I gotta go grab something from my office. So you got till I get to my office and come back down.
Yeah.
And so we get to the elevator and he's like, yo, I want to holler at so-and-so. And I was like, oh, word. And so he was like, I want to make sure I approach her well. And so literally I helped him talk through what was good, what was helpful to say, what was not helpful to say, how he should frame it. Like just because you're interested in her doesn't mean she has to be interested in you back.
Come on.
Right. And so we talked through all that stuff. And I remember she came to us after he approached her, and she didn't know that I had this conversation with him, but she came to our house and she was telling us about it. And she was like, man, like his approach was so dope. Like, I feel like he got coaching on this or something like that. but it just goes to show you, like, there's it's helpful when you have some just guidance on like how to think through even your approach and your expectations.
And what will be
dating.
received
what
well.
Will be received
what
well,
will be received
what
well.
you should and shouldn't expect from a young lady, or you know, when you're approaching all that type of stuff. So yeah.
First of all, that takes intentionality, and it also made me think about, this is so random, but I like the movie John Tucker Must Die because he was such a player, and he kind of had a cookie cutter mentality because he would go from cheerleader to cheerleader. But when it came to old girl, he sent in flowers. He had each of the little, I call them his minions, but he had the dudes from robotics and like go everybody one by one went to give her a flower. But it's like he changed up his approach. He's like, she different because she wasn't taking just that easy, I'm John Tucker, give me your number.
Okay.
Right.
So I know it just made me think about that. Like, that takes intentionality, but
yeah, that's true.
Way to dig into the topic.
Yeah, so that kind of rolls into our topic, in which we've been kind of already been talking about. Because you mentioned like coaching the young men into doing that, and how you don't see that, you know, as much anymore. And I was going to say, like, because what's happening now is that you just have guys just either not approaching, or they're just approaching, you know, how they've been taught either through the podcast or through, you know, what they've seen on social media, Red Pill, Manosphere, all that stuff. And so when, I guess this would be a question for both of y'all, but I want to ask Courtney first. Like when you see, like with couples doing that, and like when they come to you and you kind of see, well, wait a minute, these are some red flags that probably you should have saw when y'all were dating or talking to each other, but now y'all on you know, pre-engagement counseling and like so what is your, first off, what is your definition of a red flag?
Yeah.
And
in
then,
the context of Christian dating.
Yes, and then two, how should, like, what are some ways in which, if you were to play back some sessions that you've had, and like, man, and if you would have caught them before they met, what would you say to them as far as like, hey, watch out for this, watch out for these red flags? So what is a red flag, and then how do you watch out for them?
Well, yeah, that's a lot. That's good though, but it's a lot. I would say that a red flag is absolutely something that stands out, that is a concern, and or even like you need to slow down. This is speed bump. We need to address this before we can move forward in this relationship. Because something is off. It's like, okay, so you know, it's like when you're cooking, like if you open up like the package and it just don't smell right, like, oh, let me hold up, I'm not going to use this, let me not proceed. You're not going to just I'll just throw some seasoning and keep going, it'll be fine.
Come on, illustration.
Like, okay, hello, you see me? Okay. That's a red flag. Nah, we gotta address this. Hold up, what's the expiration date? What's going on? What day did I buy this? Wait a minute. You know, I'm not gonna just like push forward and sprinkle.
I can't use this.
Okay, I'm not gonna like sprinkle seasoning on it to cover it up. Like, no, we need to address this. We can't keep going here.
I think too. I think even with that, and this was one of the things we were talking about earlier, is red flags are always biblical issues, not preferential issues. Right? Like, break it down. Your preferences are fine. So you can have your preferences and decide because of your preferences not to move forward in a relationship. That's not a red flag, right? A red flag is an issue that the Bible would say is an issue that has to be addressed if you want to move forward in a relationship and have a healthy relationship.
So give a few examples then of what you would.
You give examples. I'm just playing.
Red flags. Like, I'm just like, see what I did there? Sorry.
I would say probably one of the biggest ones for me would be like someone who doesn't take their walk with the Lord seriously.
Okay.
Jesus.
Right? And it's
huge
often,
red flag. That's like neon lights.
It's often one that sometimes singles get over, that people who are dating overlook. Or they'll make excuses for.
What would they look like?
Overcompensate for.
I said, what would they look like, them not taking their walk seriously?
I would say like the only time they come to church is when they're dating somebody who's Christian.
Oh, got you.
And the Christian got to be in their ear like, come on.
They're coming to church because they're with somebody who wants them to come to church.
They don't have that heart, that fire, that desire for the Lord on their own.
Somebody who, somebody who I would consider like worldly, like in love with the world, the things of this world.
Yeah.
Like very little conviction about like behaviors or activities that the Bible would say are either unwise or straight out sin, flat out sin.
Like it's very no distinction. How do you even look different? You look the same.
And no desire to be distinct. Right? I would say somebody who is extremely isolated from the Christian community, right, would be like an example of that. So I would say like some of those are.
And the reason why that's a problem though, because sometimes people don't think that's an issue, but that's a problem because like if you're dating someone who's isolated or you yourself is isolated from healthy Christian community, who knows you? Like who did mama them? Like who can vouch for you? Who can vouch for them? Like if nobody knows this person, this person you're with, not to say you can't be with them, but that's scary because it's like, you know, they can, when they're trying to date you, of course, we all put on our Sunday best when we're trying to date somebody. Okay. Like edges is done. I mean, I don't have any edges, but you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying?
You
like,
got enough edges.
Oh,
baby.
Thank you, babe. Thank you, baby. You know what I'm saying? But like, no one knows them. So it's just like, you're only getting their persona of who they are, but like who else is in their world? Who can speak to their character? Who can, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, just to get a job, you got to submit 3 names to somebody who knows you. Okay. Hello.
And I think the danger is too, a lot of people try to date in silence or in obscurity.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of times
on the
we
sneak,
know it's because
and they pop up. This is so and so.
You know what I'm saying? Like we don't want that accountability.
Okay. We don't want to be held accountable.
Here's the thing. The truth is there's a lot of pride in the person who thinks that they don't need other people's
other eyes
on their relationship and other observations on their relationship. There's a pride there because the assumption is that you don't have blind spots.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's good.
And we do.
And we do. And so like,
or that you know best.
Yeah. You know.
Not to say that you don't know, like it's not coming at, you know, your maturity, like you're an adult, you might be on your own, you got your career, like you traveling, we not trying to knock all that. But again, the reality is like, let's keep it real. When you are early in your relationship, listen, all I see is you.
Not even early.
Listen, you know what I mean? Like,
you know, like it's hard for me to tell her no. We 18 years in. It's still hard to not make bad financial decisions. I'm not saying you're the cause. I'm not saying you're the cause. But I'm not saying these. We're about to get some
emails.
Let
me tell Pastor Curt somebody's wife.
I want to wine and dine.
Yep.
I want you too.
I want her to have what she wants. I want her to have the best. Right.
Yeah.
My baby wants. My baby gets.
If I'm depending on me to just be like, oh yeah, no, I can tell her no. That's not the truth, because there are going to be times, even if she's not asking for it, I'm going to want to do it, and I'm close to the situation. I'm close to her. So sometimes I need to hear other people be like, "Man, yeah, I was thinking about doing that, and that wasn't wise." And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I was thinking about doing that too. That's not wise. Yeah. Or somebody telling me directly, like, "Hey, man, I know we've been talking about your finances. Like, I don't know how great of a purchase that's going to be, or maybe you should hold off and have some patience." Like, you know what? You're right. But if I'm if I'm just dependent on myself
out here just living life,
I'm generally going to make decisions that please her, because pleasing her pleases me.
Oh, okay.
But but pleasing her and pleasing me should not be the highest priority,
because you can
please her and please me and not please the Lord.
Okay. So how much more if you're dating and you're looking to marry someone? How much more? Again, not knocking folk, like, you know. But it's just helpful, you know, when we are not rooted in healthy Christian community where people can be like, yo, that ain't it. Like, that's not the one, you know, or, oh, wow, the way she was talking to so-and-so and the track record, or the way he was dealing with so-and-so and his track record, like, you know, and just if anything to give you pause to be like, okay, wait, we need to maybe address this a little bit.
Sound like accountability to me.
Okay.
Yeah,
very much so.
That's good.
Yep. Okay, and so now I think we kind of already touched on this part, but I want to say, can we talk about what is the difference between a red flag and an area of growth?
That's a good question. You want to take this one, baby?
Yeah. The difference between a red flag and just an area of growth.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. You know, one of the things that I think about often, like when I think about all of like sort of like the checklists of dating that happen today.
Yeah.
I think about how many of those checklists or how many of those checklists I would be disqualified from. Like when I was when I was pursuing my wife, right? Like I legitimately, like I hear some of the expectations and some of like the requirements, and I think to myself, man, I wouldn't make that list
at all.
And I remember being on the phone with a young lady one time, and she was running through her checklist, and I was just like, man, I wouldn't make your list. But I also think, and I don't say this pridefully, but I'm like, man, like if that was my wife's list, she would have missed out on an incredible husband.
I would have, because he's amazing.
You know what I'm saying? Now, and I say that knowing good and well I was not a finished product at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
None of us are. I was nowhere near a finished product, and there were a lot of things in my life that weren't in place. But again, the difference between like potential and red flag, right? And so some of us come into our dating world expecting to marry somebody who's a finished product. Already.
Yeah.
So either we're expecting a finished product or we're overlooking red flags, and sometimes we don't know how to distinguish between the two, right? And so I would say like for instance, if it's a red flag issue, how do they respond when you bring up the issue to them? Do they get angry?
Yeah.
Do they avoid the conversation?
Yeah.
Right?
Do they blame shift?
Are they willing to discuss the issue? Right? Do they acknowledge it and then repent about it? And then do you see them trying to fix it, trying to work on it?
Your response.
Because for me, an issue becomes a red flag, not because of the issue itself, but because of how they respond to it when somebody's trying to address it.
That's so good. That's so good.
And so, because you could have a problem over here, and somebody tries to address it with you, and you respond in humility and acknowledge it, repent, and try to work on it. That's not a red flag to me.
Yeah.
That's an area. That's something you're trying to grow in.
That's sanctification. That's literally being a Christian. Like,
it's a red flag when it's an issue that somebody tries to hold you accountable for, and you refuse to.
Or you run, or you push it back on them.
And so, one of the beautiful things about marriage is marriage is one of the probably top tier sanctifying relationships God uses. Right. On men and women is the marital relationship.
Yeah.
And if that's true, then that means God is going to use marriage to help you grow a lot, which means that you come into marriage not a finished product.
Woo.
Yeah.
And so we have to adjust our expectations.
That's so good.
Like it's okay for you to marry somebody's potential if they have like healthy, like, you know what I'm saying? Like healthy character traits that can be built upon.
Yes.
Doesn't have to be a finished product.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Now, red flags are like, I'm telling somebody to run if somebody has an issue and they're unwilling to deal with it. If they're willing to deal with it, then I'm like, man, we can work with that.
Yeah.
And that's somebody you want.
Yeah.
I would even say a red flag is how does a person approach life's difficulties.
Okay.
So if you are turning inwardly versus, to the Lord upwardly, so to speak, because what did Jesus say? He said, in this life, you're going to have many troubles, right?
Come on now.
But take heart because I've overcome the world. You see me? I was in my Bible today. Okay. All right. I spent time with him, huh? Hello. So the reality is like, we're going to have trials and tribulations, right?
Yeah.
So the red flag for me, it's very concerning if when the person I'm looking to marry, when they face the trials and tribulations that are going to come, if now they start turning to certain things, whether it's alcohol, whether it's sex, whether it's porn, whether it's addiction, whether it's shopping, whether it's, and again, we all do that in some ways, but again, if that becomes your end all be all, and that's where you always go, like you don't ever go to Jesus to deal with them troubles, that's an issue for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, sure, okay, we're going to struggle with that temptation, but are we being overcome by those temptations? Are we just leaning into them like, well, it is what it is? That to me is absolutely a red flag.
That's how and I've told her this in the past. I tell other couples this too. That's how I knew that I was going to marry her. Right? I thought she was fine.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious.
I did. I mean,
thanks,
I still think you're fine, girl. You know what I'm saying?
You all right, too?
In public. All right.
Let's chill.
But I remember, I remember it was late one night. We had got off the phone. I was sitting at my mom's kitchen table, and one of the thoughts that I had that made me comfortable and confident that I could have a dope marriage with her was, I know that she responds to the word of God and she responds to the Holy Spirit. So I know worst case scenario, if we got an issue, she's going to respond to the word of God. That's what made me confident and comfortable with marrying her. Cause I'm like, at the end of the day, I don't care what the issue is. If I can trust that she responds to God and his word, then I'm like we good.
Yeah. That's
good.
Big. That's big.
That actually answered one of our questions. Good. All right. I like how y'all on top of it. Okay.
We got the study notes. We got the study manual.
Yeah.
Next one. Scroll down a little bit.
Okay. Pass it.
Go to the other one you highlighted. Yeah, that one.
Want to go there?
Yeah.
All right. So, and I feel like you you did just answer it for yourself for sure. But what are some questions that dating couples should be asking each other before they say I do?
Yeah.
Like, what is key questions that you need to be asking before a ring is put on a finger?
Yeah.
Listen, before you get the ring.
They come, because, correct me if I'm wrong, they come to y'all with the ring on the finger and y'all counsel them through?
Not always. Sometimes.
Okay.
It's a toss up. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Yeah.
Gotcha. Various stages.
Yeah. So one thing that we tell people all the time is your dating relationship or your engagement relationship should not be a mini marriage. So depending on where you are in your relationship, right? Whether you're together, and again, everybody's timeline is different in terms of dates, right?
Yeah.
We've been together for 2 months. We've been together for 2 years. I'm not speaking necessarily to that, but I'm talking about the progression in maturity of your relationship and readiness for marriage, right? Because that could look different. Again, for us, we was together for 3-4 months and we got engaged, right? Okay. So I'm not
your friendship,
right. So I'm not saying, well, by month, whatever you should be, but again, regarding that conversation, it's the seriousness of your conversations and the topics that you're asking one another and discussing and working through literally should increase as the relationship increases. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
You guys have a little baby, we've got kids, and so we're not expecting our 7-year-old to be doing algebra. You know what I'm saying? That don't make sense. I mean, there's some smart 7-year-olds, but I mean, my baby, she's smart, but she's not doing algebra.
That's an exception.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm giving her things that are appropriate for where she is. So in the same way, in your relationship, the conversation that you are having with one another should really be appropriate and reflective as to the stage in which you guys are.
Yeah,
that is good.
Yeah. There's a very, so here's the tough thing about dating before marriage as you're moving towards marriage is you live in this tension, right? There's a tension there, especially for the Christian, right? There's a tension of developing intimacy while maintaining boundaries, because there are some things that you want to grow in, but there are some things that you want to grow in, but there are also some things that are not permissible if you're not married, right? And so when it comes to questions that you should be asking, like we tell couples all the time, we're not going to answer every question in these classes or in our counseling with you, but we want to give you the tools so that you can handle any issue that comes up. But there is this tension that exists where you're growing in intimacy, but you have to refrain from, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know,
physical.
So how would that look practically? So in terms of, let's even think through, like, okay, in our pre-engagement classes, we do have a section where we talk about sex and intimacy, because if these folk is thinking about marriage, sex and intimacy is going to come up, right? Yeah. So that is a topic that should be had. However, the appropriateness and the in-depthness of it and how you go about it, you really need to be mindful and careful and sensitive, because you don't want to start sparking stuff. You know what I mean? Like, what's it talking about? Like, you can't take fire into your bosom without being burned. Right. So, and there needs to be a sensitivity, because whatever the person you're looking to marry, whatever their sexual past history might be, if there's guilt, shame, or even possibly abuse there needs to be a sensitivity. So I would also encourage couples to really have just a prayerfulness about how they approach the questions that they're asking one another. And because, for instance, it's very important to know, like we said earlier, like, who they mama in them, like what, and that's more so thinking about family of origin type things, like what type of what type of family cycles were you a part of? Like, how did your family deal with conflict? You know, how did your family deal with finances? How did your family deal with discipline? How did your family deal with worship together? You know what I'm saying? Like, those are good conversations, because that shaped the person that you are. And we always tell people that, you know, even if you have been married before, because sometimes people come to our classes who might have had prior marriages, you might have been married before, but you've never married to this person. So the reality is, y'all are learning how to be married together. So it is helpful to think through family of origin, like, what things shaped my mindset about how I even view relationships in marriage, or roles, like you being my husband, me being your wife. Like, what examples did I have to look to growing up? Did I grow up in a home where everybody and their grandmom was getting divorced every other weekend? Or did I, live in a household where there was longevity of marriage? Or did I live in a household where people stayed married, but they hated each other and they slept in separate beds? You know, because those things shaped your mindset. That doesn't mean that that's what you're going to repeat per se, but those are important conversations to have.
So I think all in all, what you're trying to do is make sure the couples are aware of not allowing the intimacy of their relationship to be further than where the relationship actually is.
Ooh.
Yeah. Because that's where
that's what we mean by not being in a mini marriage.
Yeah. And so that can happen quickly and easily if you're not careful. Mm-hmm. Because then you end up potentially uncovering yourself and one another intimately in ways that should be reserved for a spouse. Mm-hmm. And until you're married, you're not married.
Oh, okay.
And so you might be uncovering somebody else's spouse with the level of intimacy that you're creating in the relationship if you're too far ahead of where the relationship is.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Because
there's danger in it.
You can be engaged all the way up until the wedding day, but you're still not married yet, and so you can still be preparing somebody else's spouse, mm-hmm. And so you want to treat it that way
as such.
And treat it as such, which I think is important. You ready for the final section?
Encouragement.
The encouraging words, yeah.
Your reaction after
that? Yeah. So, or you want to do encouraging words?
Okay, and so how we like to end, because we niched all the way down. So our goal on this channel is to encourage Christian singles for a kingdom marriage, and so we like to end, especially when we have married couples on, especially married couples with y'all level of grace and mercy and just all the goodness here. When it comes to marriage and premarital counseling and things of that nature, if y'all can just give a word of encouragement, you to the single Christian men who are believing God, and then you to the Christian single women of like encouragement in their waiting. Also just give a piece of encouragement to just the importance of what we talked about, looking out for the red flags, not rushing into but really buckling down deep in the season that they're in as they're waiting on the Lord.
Yep. And 1 second, I'm gonna reset the camera. I want you to look at this camera.
Oh yeah, look right at the camera.
Reporting live. Sorry.
Okay.
So I think my answer kind of covers both in some ways. I would say for the young Christian dating person and the men, right? Like, but I think this can go to the women as well. But I would say, like, don't settle, right? Like, marriage does not make you whole. Only God does that, right? And so a lot of times there's this romanticized view about marriage, you know, that marriage, you know, brings happiness, joy, and a benefit to your life, which is true if you have a good marriage, like if you have a healthy marriage. Marriage can make life better, but marriage can also make life worse. Like we talk about this often. Like, you know, if you settle, you can start your marriage being closer to worse, because you've overlooked some of the red flags that might exist. And so, you know, we just want to encourage you, man. God has a full life for you right now in your singleness, where you are. You don't need marriage to have a full life. But I know many of you desire marriage, and that's a good desire. It's a really, really good desire. But, you know, we want to be realistic too. There are a lot of married people who would rather be in your position as well, sadly. God. And so, you know, marriage, while being a blessing, is not something to be idolized, because you can end up being so disillusioned after you get married, being like, man, this is not what I expected marriage to be, and I've wanted this all of my life. So anyway, for the brothers, I would say, you know, man, don't be afraid to approach a sister and get rejected, you know, and be intentional. When you approach a sister, a young lady, be intentional. Like, make sure you know where you're trying to lead her.
Give her somewhere to go.
Don't date like the world dates and be a serial dater, or have a young lady waiting years on end trying to figure out when you're going to propose, and if you're ever going to propose, and when you're going. And have a plan.
Have a plan.
Communicate well what your plan is and what your vision is for the relationship. But brothers, have some courage, right? And it's okay, man. You know, like, you know, it's okay to have your heart broken too. God restores that as well. But I need us as men to just have some resolve, some courage, and some intentionality. So I hope this is a blessing for you guys.
Amen.
That's good.
Wow. As our 16-year-old say, you ate and left no crumbs.
Clocked all the T's.
Clocked all the
T's. All the T's all the time.
I'm like, dang, can you leave some for me? What am I going to say? Goodness.
You got a lot to say, baby.
Yeah, well, we're gonna skip the reaction thing because of time.
Yeah.
Okay. But we just appreciate you all again for
so
coming
much.
through. Y'all just have been a blessing to us, and I know that the people are going to be blessed. And just like I said, the wisdom again that y'all share is just. I'm just picking up some stuff like, man, like these are gems that we can take, even, you know, use within our marriage. But once again, we appreciate you all for sharing and coming on. And for everyone out there that's been watching, we appreciate you watching.
Subscribe.
Please like and subscribe.
we have to say it.
Subscribe.
Yeah, we've had about
to be clear,
we've had about 90% of the people that watch our videos are not subscribed. So we want to. Well, first I'll say welcome. Welcome to, you know, the tribe. Welcome to the monogamy team. But we want you to go ahead and check it out, our videos, and also check out our previous interviews that we've done before as well. Yep. So we want to close out by saying we want you all to go out there and make today meaningful. Peace, y'all. If this conversation helped you spot red flags more clearly, then wait till you hear our take on one of the most controversial topics in Christian relationships: submission. We did a whole podcast on why submission in marriage isn't a bad thing. And trust me, it's not what culture says it is. So if you ever wrestle with the idea of biblical roles and what a healthy submission actually looks like, you don't want to miss this one. Click right here to check out that video, and we'll see you over there. All right, peace. You know what love